All right. Now we're going to jump a little into advertising mistakes, advertising ethics, and the laws that are associated with all of that. Good old Homer. Um, so in 2012, Camp first did an article on the 10 most common mistakes therapists make in advertising, and they've updated it twice since then, most recently in 2017. So the 10 mistakes are based on their specific article. And yes, we make mistakes, and you are watching this class so that you're not making those kind of mistakes again. Number one, which is really important, it's an important concept, is all public communication is considered advertising under California law. Business cards, websites, letterhead, email, social media, all of it. So what that means is any of those things have to have all the information. So, your license number, it needs to be on your letterhead and your social media, etc. So that's the importance of this one. And I think it's something that many of us might not have really known. Um, the legal definition, which you can read yourself in the slides. And a bunch of these mistakes are about unlicensed therapists, but so number two is not including information required by law. And there's all the information in here about your credentials and just making sure you use your full name as filed with the board and you use only the acceptable abbreviations. Like for MFT, it's MFT or LMFT, nothing else. And then the ones for the other licenses are also there. And of course, your registration or license number, and if you're an associate, including the name of your employer or supervisor. Number two, we're going to come to in a second. And also, associates need to inform every client prior to services that they're unlicensed and under supervision of licensed professional. Hopefully, any of you that are associates will have that in your informed consent. Number three, including the word psychotherapy or psychotherapist in an advertisement without complying with regulations. Who knew there was regulations for that? So you can only use those words if you also fully spell out your license. So Jane Doe, licensed marriage and family therapist, providing psychotherapy or something like that. You can't just say Jane Doe psychotherapy. Mistake number four, failure to include the license or registration number in the advertisement. That is pretty self-explanatory. Mistake five, failing to provide clients with all necessary information for an unlicensed therapist. Now we're calling associates, not interns, which is great. And just making sure that, again, you spell it out. Registered associate, marriage and family therapist, or social worker, or professional counselor. And if you're going to use the abbreviation MFT, you should have registered associate in front of it. Okay. And the same for the other licenses. Six is including information about fees in an advertisement that's not exact, includes words that are prohibited by law. This is just really about being very specific. And we're going to hear this again and again. You can't be mislead, misrepresent, deceive. It's the language that's going to be through all of these laws and even through some of the ethical standards. All right. And also, there's a legal requirement we disclose fees prior to treatment. That's also in some of the ethical codes too. So again, that should be easily done by being in your informed consent. CAMFT is the only one that calls out fees and the disclosure of fees ethically. So, and they also call out, and again, informed consent to issue canceled or missed appointments, interest on unpaid balances, and also giving reasonable notice of any changes of fees. I think standard is generally around 30 days notice at a minimum. So just making sure that you have all of that in your informed consent. Considering best practices, I encourage people to list their fees clearly on your website, but that is not a requirement by law. I think it addresses a lot of the issues and disclosures, and just make sure that anything about fees or sliding scale is not at all misleading. And just take a moment to think about why you decided to put your fee on your website or why you decided not to put your fee on your website. Mistake number 5, using a fictitious business name or DBA, which is doing business as. That's false, misleading, or deceptive. Um, I know these were most popular mistakes. I'm not sure what people were doing here, but again, using your name, calling it, Kathy's Counseling or Counseling for Anxiety Services or something like that. But, can't be like Guaranteed Results Counseling, you know. So just making sure that it's just very truthful. Mistake number 8, using the word psychological or psychologist in an advertisement when you're not a licensed psychologist. I would think the psychological would be more of the issue that would be coming up, but just making sure you don't do it. Don't use that word unless you're a licensed psychologist. Number 9, making a scientific claim in an advertisement that cannot be substantiated by reliable published scientific studies. You shouldn't be making claims. So there's a difference in nuance between saying, I can help you improve your sleep, to saying guaranteed sleep improvement in 30 days. Don't say that unless you have scientific proof that that will actually happen. And I'm not really sure most people can get that scientific proof. Uh, and the law is 651, and the main points, again, just can't be deceptive, the BBS can take action, and being also aware that we can't anyway misrepresent our experience or scope of practice. So we can't say to be experts in something if we're not really an expert in it. We can say trained or certified or whatever the appropriate word is. Um, and what's interesting is this was something I didn't know until I started putting this course together, is that you can't say you are a licensed drama therapist. What you can say is, I am a licensed MFT certified in drama. Licensed drama therapist, implies that there's a license in drama therapy. And if and until that happens, you can't say it in that way. So um, just making sure you're very clear on that. And the main points, again, false beliefs about results of treatment, and any representation that would cause a reasonable person to be deceived. Okay. And again, with the BBS, calls unprofessional advertising is very much the same sort of stuff, including misrepresenting education, professional qualifications, or professional affiliations. Mistake number 10. Oh my goodness, this is such a huge one. And I see people do it all the time. And when I do these courses, people are like, what? You can't do this? I see people do it all the time. No, no, no. You can't solicit testimonials from clients to be included in an advertisement. And it's really best practice to stay away from it with a former client too. Colleague? Okay. But I would also spell out this, was given by so and so LCSW. So as to not imply that it was from a client. Um, yeah, this is just what I said. It's just not ethically permitted in advertising from clients. CAMP has it in our ethics. And they do say it's, you can't get it from clients, patients who are due to, are vulnerable to undue influence, but you'd have to prove that. And how do you prove that you don't have this great influence over a client? I think that would be very difficult. NASW, same sort of thing. ACA, they actually call out former clients, which I do think is best practice, because you never know when a former client is going to become a current client again. And just take a moment again. Have you seen therapists use testimonials? And if you have, what were your thoughts when you saw them? Quick thing on the ethics of advertising. Issues that may not have come up. Making sure you're accurate regarding your qualifications, And this is interesting too, ensuring accuracy. I think we've all heard over the years of people data mining our clinical website information from Psychology Today or another place like that, and then just starting their own website and saying, oh, I'm doing a listing service for child therapists or something, and you're not a child therapist and somehow you're listed there. If you become aware of that, just ask for your listing to be removed. We are obligated to try and make sure that the information out there is accurate to the best of our ability and knowledge. Okay. Um, Again, back to false, misleading, etc. And there's where they talk about the corrections. I even do that verbally often. I have people call me and say, oh, Dr. Hanville. And I'll be like, no, I'm not a doctor, I'm a social worker. Just making sure we're representing ourselves with the degrees and qualifications we have. Because a lot of clients don't understand what's the difference between an MFT, a doctor of psychology, an LCS, so just making sure we're just being on the up and up. The competency for services comes up in the NASW's advertising. Don't say you're an expert in something you're not an expert in. You can say you're certified or have some training, but just being careful about that. ACA has information about that also. And that's it. You made it through. And now you know the things to avoid when you're advertising your private practice. All right.